Kiley.
President Raymond, there's a professor on your faculty, Professor Mendelsohn, is that correct?
Yes.
He's an Israeli professor, and he has posted that Haverford College's student body is led by Hamas apologists and tainted by anti-Semitism. He said, if I'm a parent of a Jewish student, I will not send them to Haverford College. Do you think there is reality reflected in his sentiments?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Do
his sentiments reflect a reality on that campus?
I think that Professor Mendelsohn has the right to express himself as he wishes, and I do not think that that expresses the overall reality at Haverford.
Was he investigated by your administration?
I will not talk about individual investigations.
Okay, I'm not asking you the content of the investigation. I'm saying yes or no, was this professor investigated?
I will not talk about whether an individual...
I think we'll take that as a yes. You have professors who are making anti-Semitic comments, who are inciting violence. Rather than investigate them, you investigate the Israeli professor who is calling attention to the horrors that are taking place on the campus. There was an incident in 2024 where you had posters for Chabad events, for other events of the Jewish community, for anti-Semitism events that disappeared, and you said this was from benign mechanisms, and you said it was the wind. Was it the wind that caused the posters to come down?
We do not tolerate any discrimination or bias.
That was nowhere close to my question. Was it the wind that caused these posters to come down? Like you said it was?
When posters are taken down intentionally, not by the wind, then that would be anti-Semitism.
It's an odd kind of wind that only goes after one particular type of poster. There was also an event on your campus that you've acknowledged by the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, that was disrupted at an event specifically designed to counter anti-Semitism. You had anti-Semites that came and disrupted it. And apparently the only thing you had them do was write a letter of apology. Is that correct?
Having that disruption of that anti-Semitism awareness event was not acceptable and a horrible moment.
And so all they had to do was write a letter of apology. There was also, apparently, donuts were going to be ordered for commencement from a Jewish bakery. A group of anti-Semites on campus asked for a boycott, saying, say no to blood donuts. Did you abide by their calls for a boycott?
We purchased and enjoyed those donuts.
Did the students receive the donuts?
They were eaten at commencement.
They were eaten. That's an odd passive voice.
Pardon me.
Did the students get any?
They were available at commencement.
To students?
Yes, they were available during the commencement.
Okay, to students. We also had a takeover of Founders Hall take place on your campus, and you said that you negotiated with those who were involved in this, didn't you?
I had conversations with those students when we brought that to a close.
The students who physically took over this building, and in fact, you said that the only punishment, the only consequences for them were restorative, not punitive action. Is that right? Restorative, not punitive?
When that disruption disrupted our campus activities, according to our policies and our practices, we closed that off, and it ended.
There was also an anti-Semitism awareness basketball game that was organized, but the organizers were told that this might prove too antagonistic to the pro-Palestinian students, and the game didn't happen. Is that correct?
We are committed to fighting anti-Semitism.
Wasn't the question. Was the game canceled? Were the students told that it would be too antagonistic to pro-Palestinian students?
That is not what happened.
Can you look, would you be able right now to look the parents of a prospective Jewish student in the eye and assure them that their son or daughter would feel safe and welcome on your campus?
I can assure all applicants to Haverford College that we are a place that promotes inclusion and belonging for all.
But would you be able to look at parents of a prospective Jewish student and say your son or daughter would feel safe and welcome on my campus?
Yes, I would.
But this is all, Mr. Cole, just McCarthyism to you, right? You've testified, you've likened our committee's anti-Semitism investigation to the House Un-American Activities Committee. Is that right?
That's absolutely right.
Have you forgotten the hearing with, say, the Columbia president, where during her testimony there was an illegal encampment that had taken over that campus? The House Un-American Activities Committee's problem was that it was dredging up distant affiliations, real or imagined, in order to impugn people. Nothing could be more different than what's going on. I don't know if you've talked to the students at places like Haverford or Harvard or Northwestern or UCLA who are afraid to wear a Star of David, are afraid to wear a yarmulke, are afraid to express their identity in any way because they'll be ostracized, they'll be subject to discrimination, to potentially acts of violence, who have to face checkpoints from anti-Semitic lunatics on the campus, not letting them even access public facilities or cross the quad. Nothing could be more different. This is a shocking problem that has engulfed much of higher education and had been building for many years, but in particular over the last year and a half. And I simply cannot believe that you would say that the Democrat witness from the ACLU would come here and liken this to McCarthyism. We have a long way to go in reforming higher education. I yield back.
Can I respond?
I thank the gentleman from...
Do I get to respond or no?
Could the gentleman respond?
The gentleman can respond when he's given the opportunity. I now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. DeSaulnier.
Mr. Cole, I want to give you a chance to respond on my time, and I just want to agree with your sentiment. And I'm taken by the comment in that point of history, have you no shame? And sorry, he's leaving. That's just shameless behavior, so I'll give you a few minutes to explain.
I guess he didn't want to hear the answer.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So go ahead. If you need more time, it's on me.
So the answer is, of course there's a problem with anti-Semitism, there's a problem with Islamophobia, there's a problem with racism, there's a problem with sexism. This hearing, this set of hearings that this committee has engaged in is not a solution to that problem, just as there was a problem with communist spies. We now have evidence that there were, in fact, communist spies. But the McCarthy era and the HUAC hearings were not about that. They were about bringing people in, condemning them, not looking into the facts, but making broad accusations. And I've heard that again here today, again and again, lumping together criticism of Israel, which is protected speech, with anti-Semitism, criticism of Zionism, which is protected speech, with anti-Semitism. No effort to discern the difference between protected speech and discrimination. Our Constitution requires that we make that distinction. This committee has not made any effort to make that distinction. That's why I draw the comparison to HUAC.
No, and I completely agree with you. And that comment to Senator McCarthy at that time, I think, is appropriate today. After all this, sir, do you have no shame? Because I actually think it makes a higher risk for violence on the campuses.
Well, exactly. And we did ultimately recognize that Joe McCarthy made a mistake. And I think history will show that this committee followed and repeated that same mistake.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate it. President Armstrong, I want to talk about what we've done in California and the University of California system that some of my colleagues are anxious to criticize. In your instance, as a member of the Transportation Committee, you're getting people out to help us spend that money that we did in the Biden administration to provide valuable resources to the economy and transportation. You have one of the highest returns on investment for students. When your graduates get out, they go out to work and make a good return on investment. So thank you for that, and you've done really good work on this instance. Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record 2 letters from students and organizations at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, which speak positively about President Armstrong's leadership and atmosphere the school has created for Jewish students. I'd ask unanimous consent, Mr. Chairman, to submit those to the record.
Without objection, it'll be submitted.
So can you follow up on your work with local police who have jurisdiction over this at Cal Poly that's been successful to protecting all of your students, particularly Jewish students?
Yes, thank you for that question. We work very hard to make sure all students have a safe learning environment. We want to make sure they're free from harassment and discrimination, but we also balance that with free speech. So our University police partner with off-campus, the city police, in a very positive way. First, we make sure that our students who have invited speakers or departments, that it is done properly and everyone is safe. So that's with our time, place, and manner rules. And then we have a great relationship with the city. They provide aid. We also support them. So I appreciate that question.
Thanks. Mr. Cole, I want to ask you a question. In the area I represent, Region 9 in San Francisco is being cut back, all the departments, but the Department of Education. So its ability to defend vulnerable students, could you speak to that? If you don't have the staff in the regions, what does that do to potential violence or protections for interest to the disabled community?
Well, it decimates the ability, the real ability of government to try to protect Jewish students. And if this committee really cared about Jewish students, it would be condemning the Department of Education. It would be bringing in the secretary, as I suggested earlier, and saying, why are you cutting in half the Office of Civil Rights? We have a problem with anti-Semitism. We have a problem with racism. We have a problem with sexism. Let's deal with the problem. But instead, the committee brings in presidents, dredges up allegations that have not been determined to be true or false, and just throws them out as if that's somehow solving the problem. It's not solving the problem in any way, shape, or form. What would solve the problem?
The gentleman's time has expired.
Calling the Secretary of Education here.